I was taking 6 Motrin 800s a day just to function.
Wow.
Just to function. And I made sure not to take anything that day. And I was going to go back to my plastic surgeon because he'll tell me the truth, right? I remember I went, and I was not crying. I was not hysterical. I just said, I am very sick. And if it's my breast implants, please tell me. And he tapped me on the leg. No. There's no scientific evidence to show this today that you're sick from your breast implants, but I'll take them out under a local if that's what you want. I said, get them out of me.
Hello, Brave Table fam. Welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your destination, your oasis to be all things just a little bit more brave in your actions, in your relationships, and in your life. And you guys, today, this episode is a deeply personal one for me. This past summer, I actually had my breast implants removed. And yes, I know we had other guests on the show that talked about breast implant illness. And this episode is literally for anyone, any daughter, friend, bestie, teacher, somebody that you work with, someone who maybe has breast implants or maybe was thinking about it, to know the darker side, sometimes what's called the hidden epidemic of getting those breast implants and how it can actually be toxic to your system and when to know it can actually be removed and the process of getting them removed. So we've got an entire episode that's going to go into this. I literally flew all the way from Dubai back to my hometown of Chicago to interview the premier surgeon that literally helped me heal and his team, Laura, Bowden, and the incredible, amazing Dr. Aditya Sood. I've been wanting to share this with you for a really long time, but this was a decision that wasn't taken to heart. It's actually taken probably, I want to say, 4+ years. In fact, I started looking into this when I was pregnant with my first kid, with my son Ari, about 7 years ago. 7 years ago now. But there was never really a moment I thought, okay, well, I'll do it after I have kids. And then, so if you are in that boat, I see you. And this episode is literally for you. You are going to open your eyes. We are braving our health today. This is the dream team that literally made my explant surgery possible. Dr. Aditya Sood is a board-certified plastic surgeon who's actually helped hundreds, if not thousands of women at this point, safely explant and heal. And Laura Bowden actually has her own story. She's a true pioneer and advocate for breast implant illness, who was also on the Oprah Winfrey Show in the 90s. And guess what? She was calling out the dangers of implants before most people actually even heard of the term BII, or breast implant illness. Now we're going to really double click on what breast implant illness is and why so many women are actually suffering in silence and what it actually takes physically, emotionally, and spiritually to literally get your health back on track. All right. So today is a roller coaster ride. I know you are going to share this episode with a friend, a bestie, someone that you love. So buckle up because it's going to get juicy. Let's begin with Dr. Sood and Laura on the Brave Table this week.
First of all, thank you for having us, Neeta. This is a great experience to be in your show. We've listened to your show. So for us to help spread our message, which also has kind of now become your personal message that we will be discussing, it's very important and we're very blessed to be here.
It's so honored to have you both. Like, honestly, we were looking forward to this and we literally carved a day out so that we can do this, but we have so much to get into. And I really wanted to start by, so many women are now, in these Facebook groups. I think I saw 100,000 women in one of the breast implant illness groups. And to be honest, and to be fair, for a long time, I didn't want to join those groups. I was like, oh, yeah, there's nothing wrong with me. What do you mean? Like, I'm okay. I'm great. I really practice the art of, choosing my thoughts and all of the things. I'm such a big health nut. But I also want you guys to start with, the term BII, or breast implant illness. And if somebody's listening to this or watching this for the first time on YouTube, And they're wondering if this is what's happening in their own bodies. Well, let's first define what is breast implant illness and what are some of those earliest signs that people shouldn't ignore.
So I will start, but Laura Bowden Dawn here is a survivor herself, so she can speak to not only what she felt, but she's also helped thousands of women in her lifetime, even before I became involved. But to start, breast implant illness is an elusive diagnosis. It's actually a diagnosis of exclusion. And the reason we personally feel that it's a diagnosis of exclusion, as along with the other people in the world, is there's no test that can specifically tell us whether you are getting sick from the multifactorial foreign body. What is it? Is it the silicone? Is it the plastic products? Is it the heavy metals that the plastic's made out of? Is it pathogens? Is it mold, bacteria, fungus that will obviously be involved in any foreign body and that's within anybody's cells? But it's multifactorial. But technically, as far as we're concerned and the way we feel about it, is breast implant illness is the body essentially rejecting the foreign body, which in this case is a silicone implants. And it's also this, when I say silicone, I also mean saline implants, which are made from a silicone shell. And they have water inside the silicone shell, which essentially is housed in there, but there is a connection, which Laura will talk about. A lot of symptoms come along with this diagnosis of exclusion. We have a checklist that we have all of our patients fill out. And on that checklist alone, we have about 40 symptoms, which we've correlated with this illness. And we generally will track our patients from pre-op, which is like, before surgery, what they're feeling, what's causing them the most harm to their body or their psyche or, their physical being. And then we track them. And we actually did a study in-house tracking symptom digression over several months and generally up to a year. It's hard for us to follow patients further than a year. Multifactorial here. It's a lot of our patients are from out of town. About 90% plus of our patients are
Dubai.
Yep. We flew.
Exhibit A. So a lot of patients are flying in for surgery. So we do a lot of telehealth visits to kind of track their symptoms and their progression and how they're doing. But I'll let Laura kind of get into some of the things that women talk about as how they kind of decided that, hey, this could be my implants. Is it, the common thing we see is it aging? Is it, I just had 3 kids and I thought it was just my body getting into this mode. Is it menopause? Is it hormonal changes? Is it that, that rheumatoid arthritis in my family? Is it that history of autoimmune conditions that runs in my family? But I have implants. So I'm going to let Laura kind of dive into some of these things.
Exactly. I mean, spot on. The thing is, the last thing we want to believe is that our implants are making us sick.
Right. I know. I was in that camp.
Bottom line. Yeah. Right. Not only have we spent the money, we love them, right? We're worried about what we're going to look like. So when a woman starts getting sick, what are the symptoms? It can start with fatigue, memory loss, brain fog, word retrieval. It could be extreme exhaustion. Exhaustion almost like you're hungover every day. It's hard to explain unless you've been through it, and I'm thinking you basically understand it, right?
Yep.
It could be weight gain. It's inflammation. It's joint pain. It's heart palpitations, anxiety, depression, hair loss. Now, we could say, well, anybody going through menopause, that can fit in there, right? So as women start getting sick, they start going to doctors and every single test, and everything shows that it's normal.
Yeah.
So then they just think they're going crazy. And then they start going holistic because I'm going to fix myself.
Right.
I'm going to fix my gut. I'm going to make this better. I'm going to work out better. I'm going to work out more. I'm going to eat better. And it gets to the point they've exhausted everything. By the time they find us, the only thing they can think it is has to be my breast implants. Now, how do they know that? Social media. Social media is literally, women are saving women. We all say that sometimes that social media is the demise of the world, right? Facebook. If it wasn't for these groups, you were mentioning one of the support groups, the largest group is 198,000 sick women. We are almost hitting 5,000 ourselves.
I know,
right?
That's crazy.
Exactly. So how could we all be just making this up?
Yeah.
Right? And when a woman falls into the group or another woman tells her about the group, it is the point where she feels she's finally validated.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, I must not be alone. And that's how this spirals. And how do we know it's BII, right? There's no medical diagnosis for it.
Yeah.
It is, just like Dr. Sood said, it is diagnosis of exclusion. When we take these breast implants out, we see the women get better.
Yeah.
We watch them get better. We see their eyes change, the clarity of their eyes. We talked about that, right? Dry eyes, another symptom. And I'll get into my story later, but it's like there's sandpaper in your eyes. An overall feeling of you lose your joy. You lose your joy.
Laura, bring up some of the false diagnoses that patients are given by like their teams of doctors.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's just kind of they're throwing a dart at a target that it's not clear that they have some of these diagnoses. I could run them down a list, but I know you can as well.
You're absolutely right. Well, it looks like
Lyme disease.
Hashimoto's Lyme disease. Lyme disease
Very
is
common.
very
Lyme
common.
disease. Okay.
Yeah. So my belief with Lyme disease is I believe the Lyme disease sits dormant. It needs a feeder host.
Okay.
Right? So what is that feeder host? The feeder host is the toxins, right?
Right.
Dr. Sood touched a little bit on saline. So saline implants have a faulty valve. They've known for 30 years about this faulty valve.
And just to be clear, this is a valve that's in the implant that essentially is used by surgeons to actually inflate the implant because it comes flat in the box, and the saline implants are actually filled with water as they're being placed, but right before they're placed into the body.
Right.
So that valve, like there is a connection. It does the valve kind of snaps back and self-closes, but it doesn't seal.
Oh, wow.
So there's always a connection between the body and
This
the water.
This moldy water.
Yes.
Right. So what happens? You just hit on mold, right? So we have bacteria in, bacteria out. What happens when we take saline bags, saline solution, and put in body temperature? It's a petri dish. It's a petri dish. So our saline patients have more systemic issues.
Oh, wow.
Even though BII does not discriminate, our saline patients is what Dr. Sood and I see. They're sicker. A lot more mental, and I'm not saying they're mental, a lot more neurological. Ringing in the ears, gut issues. If a patient says to us she has gut issues, she has ringing in the ears, we're like, saline implants.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 of the symptoms on our sheet that we see them. Like we already know what they have before they even tell us.
Yeah.
You mentioned the psyche, like the mental, the anxiety, sometimes depression, but we see a lot of anxiety, a lot of very random rashes that no dermatologist can exactly diagnose. And unfortunately, steroids and
I mean, that's just putting a Band-Aid over it.
Immunomodulators are thrown at patients, and it does help the symptoms, just as it does to kind of exercise, do your self-detox. If you use the sauna all the time and you're eating healthy, you're self-detoxing at all points in life. And you can kind of fight this for a while, but at some point,
keeping your head above water,
it's going to hit.
And the thing is you mentioned Hashimoto's too.
Hashimoto's,
because
and
so in Sjogren's as well. These are all autoimmune. So so talk to us a little bit about how the body starts to attack itself because of having these foreign objects in your body.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the physical component. So when the implants are put in, the body will immediately form a scar tissue layer around the implant. And, we call this the capsule. So this is the body's way of kind of sheltering or kind of encapsulating the foreign body. The same thing happens if we have a splinter in our finger. The body will form a little scar tissue layer around there because it's a foreign object. The body does not recognize it. It wants to fight it, so eventually it gets walled off. The body's got an amazing amount of cells, natural killer cells, immunogenic cells, lymphatic cells. But everything that we know about is that we could actually kind of point to is that the autoimmune effect of having this foreign body, the body starts to attack other areas of itself. So what we notice, what we kind of, I guess, profess at this point is joint damage. Joint damage is very common.
Inflammation.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's that funny thing between inflammation and then autoimmune reaction. Is one causing the other? I think it's actually more so the autoimmune reaction is igniting the inflammation in all different cells of the body. That inflammation destroys everything. So that inflammation goes to the hair cells, goes to the ear in certain cases, goes to the joints. We have patients that haven't sweat in years because they've had these implants that have damaged their sweat glands.
No way.
And then when we remove the implants, they actually notice an odor. They're like, why do I smell? And I smell them and I'm like, that's just normal sweat. You just haven't sweat in a while, so you're purging at the moment.
It's actually kind of cool.
We have all these little signals and things, and it's not written about these little things. But after doing thousands of surgeries, seeing thousands of patients, we have all this anecdotal evidence, which one day we're going to do something with it.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to kind of figure out how to maneuver that. We don't have corporate backing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have, the products are made by very large scale pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
At least the one specific one I'm
Powerful.
talking about.
Yeah.
And very powerful.
Right.
This is something Laura knows very well about. And I hope you can actually show a little snippet of her clip somewhere, but I'm going to let Laura get into her story because I think it's a good time for her to get into that.
Well, and because we had this conversation and I had called you and this was just a patient conversation. And I had asked you, just like everything about the practice and Dr. Sood, and you just made me feel so comfortable. And then you started sharing your story about you're like, have you seen me on the Oprah show? I was like, no, but I'm from Chicago. And yeah, I mean, I grew up watching her, obviously, but you were on the show in 95.
I was in 1995.
95. And so, and you were a survivor as well. You had breast implants in 95. And so, take us through that journey.
So I was 26 years old, and in 1990 had 3 little boys. Thought, nursed my babies, put the ear in them. Like with the majority, so many of the women are like, I just wanted the ear put back in them. Probably, I would say if we could do a percentage, it was like, I nursed my babies, just wanted the ear put back in them. My husband was against it. And I said, come to the doctor. They're totally safe. And convinced him that they were safe. And it was, you thought that that's the way it was. I was always very healthy. I was an aerobics instructor, the Jane Fonda days. Yes, I know. I'm aging myself. I'm 61 now. And within 4 months, something just wasn't right. Started with fatigue, dry eyes, inflammation, joint pain, heart palpitations. Why would I ever think it was my breast implants, right? So for 2 years, I went to every doctor you can imagine. I lost my joy. I stopped talking. And anybody that knows me, there's something wrong if Laura stops talking. So went to every single doctor. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. They actually sent me to a psychiatrist.
Wow.
They did. And they would say, well, how's your marriage? You do have little children, And I remember the notes in the psychiatric notes were quite funny. Very pleasant 27-year-old woman. I'm like, there you go. So, but this is what women go through. They really do believe that they're crazy. And I remember standing in my kitchen one day after 2 years, and I was so very sick. I would get my kids to school and just couldn't wait to nap again. And then you never feel like you napped, right?
Yeah.
It's always this overwhelming exhaustion feeling. And I was standing in my kitchen. I thought, what is the difference in my life? And I got breast implants. So my aha moment, unlike so many others, as the generations go, right, we have social media. A lot of times now is the aha moment is something pops up on social media. For me, it was my God-given gut. My God-given gut told me something's not right. So I was taking 6 Motrin 800s a day just to function.
Wow.
Just to function. And I made sure not to take anything that day. And I was going to go back to my plastic surgeon because he'll tell me the truth, right? I remember I went, and I was not crying. I was not hysterical. I just said, I am very sick. And if it's my breast implants, please tell me. And he tapped me on the leg. No. There's no scientific evidence to show this today that you're sick from your breast implants, but I'll take them out under a local if that's what you want. I said, get them out of me. I was a week away from this man taking my implants out under a local, and we talked about the capsules. We can touch a little bit more on that. What that means is what he would have done, as Dr. Sood said, we have this capsule around this implant. So what he would have done, awake, cut through that scar capsule. That's your best friend, right? And God forbid if there was a rupture, we would have not have known that. And he would have just taken that implant out, left that scar capsule in, which is holding all the toxins, and he would have set me on my way. I didn't know any different. We had no social media. All I knew is I needed to get them out. I knew nothing about a capsule. I knew nothing about an En Bloc. What is that? And I was a week away from this man doing it. And I know I'm going to start crying. I can feel it already. And I was a week away from him doing this. And I was at my grandma's house. And you guys might be too young. But on the TV was Jenny Jones. She was like kind of the generic Oprah.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at my grandma's, and Jenny Jones is talking about being sick from her breast implants. And she's naming all these symptoms. And she's like going public. And that was me.
Oh, wow.
And I remember sitting there watching that, and I knew right then that it was definitely my breast implants. And underneath the TV scrolled a phone number. And that night at 9 o'clock at night, I called that number, and her name was Vicky. And that was my angel. She was my lifeline. She saved my life. So when you say these things, you know where I'm going with this. So where my passion comes from, if it wasn't for that woman answering my phone, I truly believe I would not be sitting here. I truly, truly believe that. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. I was a week away from this man basically leaving my capsules in, which was going to continue the autoimmune response that I was experiencing. And then became my mission to find somebody that knew what they were doing. I needed to find a Dr. Sood.
Yeah.
Right? And it was the 90s.
Did that even exist then?
You know what? There were very few surgeons that believed. I mean, very, very few. I actually found a neurologist in Texas at Baylor University that was doing a study. It was called silicone adjuvant breast disease. So BII has changed names probably 4 or 5 times. That's an interesting little tidbit. And there was a doctor, and his name was Dr. Bernard Patton. And I remember, again, standing in the kitchen. Apparently, a lot happens in the kitchen. And we had to take out of our 401k because Baylor wanted $10,000 for us to walk through the door because insurance isn't going to pay it. Why are they going to pay for a faulty product? Kind of just like what we're doing right now.
Of course.
And I remember telling my husband, what if this isn't it? How many what ifs do we go through, right? It's what if this isn't it? We spent all this money, this time off. And I remember my husband looking at me and saying, this is it. We're going to do whatever we need to do. I just want my Laura back. We got on a plane. I went to Baylor University in Texas and met 3 floors of sick women just like me. And I thought I was the only one. So he was doing a study. There was 100 of us in this study. And I met floors of women that had ruptures after ruptures after ruptures. They literally were, and again, they were bedridden. They were dying. And I'm just going to say it the way it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. They literally were dying. Doctors were blaming them for the rupture. You had rough sex. You did it yourself. They were actually having the women do closed capsulotomies. So what they would do back in the day when a woman had a scar capsule, which is called a, I'm having a blank.
Like a contracture.
Contracture, thank you. When they would have a capsule contracture, back in the day what they would do, they say you didn't massage them enough, you did it to yourself. You'd go to your doctor and he literally would crack it in the office.
And you mean like that the contracture is like when it's hard?
Bingo.
The hard shell.
The hard shell. So they would crack that shell to break up that scar capsule. Well, what it was doing, they found out it was either rupturing the implant or what happens now, your body says, oh my goodness, I need to build this protective barrier. So it came back with a vengeance. So they realized that wasn't a very good idea. So a lot of these women had this done. So they had ruptures after ruptures. They were so very ill. And how I knew that all those women were there is because I was part of the study. So for 2 weeks, I was going for different testing. And I'd meet a woman and I would just say, are you a patient of Dr. Patton's? And they'd say yes. So before you knew it, we developed this little support group. So this little support
in your
group
Facebook community
started exactly organically at Baylor University.
Wow.
And we made these amazing friendships. And it's time for me to have my surgery. Now, we didn't know if I had a rupture or not. We didn't know if I had a silent rupture. We always suspect. It's like a box of chocolates, right, Dr. Sood? We never know unless there's an MRI and there's a firm rupture. Dr. Sood handles every single patient as if there is a rupture. So it is done properly every single time. That capsule's wrapped around. So only by the grace of God, Dr. Patton actually had a surgeon that knew to do an En Bloc, which, again, blows my mind. It was 1992.
And it's a very technically demanding surgery.
It's very much, as you know, every day. It's very meticulous. And I remember going into surgery and I thought, oh my gosh, these women are so sick. Am I going to live? Like, are you kidding me? And I remember his name was Dr. Hamilton. And I remember laying on the gurney and I looked at him and I said, I don't want to die. And he said, I'm going to take good care of you. And I woke up and he did an En Bloc. My implants were not ruptured. It's so important to know that women think if they have a rupture, then they're sick.
Right.
No, the majority of women of the implants we take out are not ruptured. They're
intact.
They're intact. All silicone breast implants gel bleed 24 hours after they're put in their body. It's been known for decades. It's been known by internal documents from companies. There's no new and proved. There is no, these new generation implants are the most toxic implants we've seen.
Really?
And how do we see that? So
Yes.
the leaching or like, what she was mentioning. So
This
sometimes
gel bleeding.
The gel bleeding. So we'll
Okay.
take out the implant out of the capsule. We do it on a separate table after the patient's starting to wake up. And we open the capsule. We squeeze on the implant to see, is there a hole? Like, that's what a rupture would mean. There's actually a hole in the outer layer.
And things are kind of oozing out.
But,
and
the majority of the time they're intact unless we, occasionally we'll find a ruptured one. Somebody might know, might not. Doesn't change our approach. The gel bleed. So sometimes I'll just put my hand on it. I have a glove on. I lift my hand up. You can see this sticky layer coming with my glove.
like slimy.
Slimy. And there's no active hole where the gel can be coming from. So these are permeable. They're supposed to be non-permeable shells, but they are obviously permeable. I'm going to let you continue.
No, that's a really, really good point. So mine were not ruptured. So for me personally, within 24 hours, it was like somebody took the cloud out of my brain.
Turn the lights on.
Within 24 hours.
Wow.
I remember sitting in the hospital bed and Dr. Panton walks in and I remember sitting there and saying, how do I feel so much better? It was like somebody took the window shade and lifted it again. And he said, you are one of the lucky ones. You were young, they were not ruptured, and you were healthy. He said, it's like taking the logs off the fire. I said, okay, it made sense. So then it was time for me to go home. And I went to every one of those women's room. And I made them a promise. These women were not going to get better. And I promised them that I was going to go home and be their voice. And I came home and I kept my promise. And my husband and I started a support group. And how do we start that support group without social media? We put a little ad in the newspaper. And women came from underground. Our support group grew so big, we had to have it at DePaul University. I knew this was going to happen. I'm not going to apologize. So that became our support group. And I became loud. Anybody that would listen. Good Morning America, Jenny Jones. And I was kind of like the Mikey. I know you guys probably don't remember this, but it was a boy that, give it to Mikey, he'll do it. Any kind of speaking engagement, they knew, give it to Laura. I had no fear. I look back and I'm like, you were kind of a badass girl. And I say that humbly. A little did I know then that this was my purpose and God had a plan for me. And our support group grew huge. And there have been doctors and scientists, is what everybody needs to know. They have been fighting for decades. And we would go to all these conferences. And there were conferences. It's when you had pieces of paper, you had studies, right? And my husband and I would go to all these conferences all over and come home with all our studies. And my dad had a heating and air business, and he had a huge copy machine. And we would spend hours and hours copying. And we would take our totes and we would go to our support groups. And women, it was like you were giving them $1 million. They realized they weren't.
Yeah.
So back in the day, there was so many, and people don't know that we've been speaking up for decades. This isn't new. It's new because of social media. It's new because we can't stop this truth train now. We're too strong. There's too many of us. So the Oprah show found out that we had a support group. And they had called and they asked if our support group would be in the audience. Can you imagine if Oprah calls? What do you say, no? It was like, what a platform that was.
I will be there.
I will be there. So half of our audience was, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Half of our audience were very, very sick women. I was the youngest one. And I was healthy at that point. And the majority of everybody in the audience, they were all very, very sick. And it was the CEO for Dow Corning. And the CEO for Dow Corning was actually on with the ethics committee who worked for Dow Corning.
And Dow Corning was
Dow Corning back in the day, for anybody that does not know, Dow Corning was who made my breast implants. They were huge, probably one of the biggest. We have Allergan, a lot different now.
Until they dissolved. Yeah. So it was
until they dissolved. They went bankrupt.
Okay.
And we can get into a little bit of that. So the CEO for Dow Corning was on the stage with the head of ethics committee of Dow Corning, and his wife got sick. Was very, very sick. So I sat there while the CEO for Dow Corning sat and lied. And it's weird. I never sit quiet. I actually sat quiet the whole show. I didn't say anything, which is very odd. Now, you have to remember, this is years of going to conferences and speaking and hearing these sick women. And it's criminal as far as I'm concerned. And the show was over. And Laura didn't speak, which was odd. But our group was doing a great job. And I was just sitting. And Oprah made eye contact with me. And she said, you have something to say, don't you? I said, I do. And Oprah looked at the cameraman and did this. And the cameraman kept rolling. So when you see the clip, the CEO for Dow Corning didn't know he was on. So I didn't know what I was going to say. The only way for me to look, I still cry every time I see it, that was not me speaking. That was the voice of all the women that I had talked to and all the women and all the suffering. So it's really powerful to watch. I didn't expect it. I sat down and I physically was shaking. And the show was over and Oprah came over to me and everybody was crying. And Oprah took my hand and she said, you just saved a lot of lives today. And they took that clip and put it in the middle of the show. So when you watch the whole episode, that didn't happen. It shows Oprah sitting on the stage and looking up at me. Look at that. So it's amazing what they were able to do. So little did I know that episode would become.
That would be your dharma.
That would be.
That would be your dharma. That would be your North Star. And I feel like you were my angel in that way because you share that exact story. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I've got to get them out.
Just like that one lady that picked up your call when you saw that number going across the screen.
That's it.
Laura will pick up her phone at any point in the day because she's thinking in her mind that this is somebody that needs help. She'll even tell me to hold on, I got to see who's calling because she doesn't want to let anyone feel like they're not heard or taken care of or can get the information. So that's still Laura today. Her hair was great back then, still great now.
I get feisty and it keeps standing up. It stands up higher.
But
So-
can you mention really quick why did you get sick so quick? I obviously know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Thank you. That is so very important. So women say, well, I was okay for 8 years. I didn't get sick or I got sick right away.
Yeah.
So our genetics plays, without trying to get too sciencey, because obviously I don't have a medical background, but I have a life experience background. So I personally have an MTHFR gene. My body cannot rid toxins. I literally got taken down with it.
We call it the mother effort.
The mother effort gene. Thank you.
We just say the
Mother
full
effort.
word in our office.
Yeah, we do.
but yeah.
We're like, we just throw it out
Okay.
there. So it doesn't mean if you don't have this gene, you're not going to get sick. It just means I cannot rid toxins. What are toxins? Breast implants are toxins, right? So for me, I got sick very, very quick. So women say, well, I was fine for 8 years. It depends on your toxic overload. What's going to take until your cup overfloweth, right?
Right.
So genetics plays a very, very big part in this. For me personally, but a lot of our patients, a lot of them will say, I have MTHFR.
Right.
What genetic? I have both SNPs from both my parents.
Oh, okay.
So I was destined. So in a perfect world, if we would actually admit that breast implants make women sick, we would get tested. Why would women get tested? You have a greater chance of falling ill because you have this genetic makeup,
the mother effort gene.
the mother effort gene,
Or an autoimmune condition.
or
autoimmune
that's
to start
another
with.
thing.
Yeah,
We have
which-
patients, right? We have patients. I think we even had a consultation, and she already had an autoimmune illness.
We have
And
patients with like
some-
scleroderma and Hashimoto's pre-existing, then they got implants and things just go through the roof.
Yeah.
Their glass is already small to start with
Yeah.
the amount of toxins they can handle.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because I do have the mother effort gene as well.
Yeah.
And I think for the first few years when it was in my mind after I had my daughter, after I had both of my kids, then I started having these weird like tingly feelings in my fingers and these weird just like aches and pains. And I'm like, maybe it's just like the woes of having 2 kids. You're holding one all day and, you're not really sleeping. You're all over the place. And like, I would have like my shoulder would fall asleep. Like, it was just like these weird things. And then my thyroid antibody levels were just so high, like massively through the roof, that no doctor would ever, they were just like, oh, well, we have to detox, or you were exposed to mold, because then we would go down the rabbit hole of mold and then parasites and thyroid issues. And of course, new mom of 2 kids running around, your thyroid issues are going to be crazy. But it was mostly like everything was okay, but it was the antibodies. And of course, when we had a functional medicine doctor look into it, it was like, okay, this is not your thyroid. This has got to be something else is attacking your immune system.
Exactly. Right there.
And that's literally what it is. And you guys have commented on Hashimoto's, and I know so many women have that. And of course, any autoimmune disease. And so I think that, if you guys can kind of talk about what are the common fears and misconceptions that women then, kind of like me, calling, I'm like, all right, going down the rabbit hole of all of the things that I did, check the box off of all of the detoxes, the health, the gut, everything. And you're like, man, I'm still getting these weird rashes. And I told you, I'm like, I had these, and I'm like, I'm not doing gluten. I'm not doing dairy. I'm not doing wine. I'm not doing sugar. Maybe once in a while I have feta, but maybe I'm not supposed to have it all the time. And then I would get these like eczema patches all over my ankles, and I showed it to you guys. But that was literally a last resort. My functional medicine doctor, she's like, oh, I didn't even realize you had implants. You probably might want to look into that as your next step. And then it just kept popping up and popping up and popping up. And so, of course, your RAS, your reticular activating system is just like, all right, you're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you guys speak to that?
And, just a real quick, and then Dr. Sood, I know you're having a thought too. Another really important thing is by the time the patients find us, they have done better research than the FBI.
Yeah.
By the time they're on the phone with me, they could, I'm like, yeah, I know. All we do is, not all, but we validate them. You're not crazy. This is real. You're not alone. And there is hope. Just hearing those words, I can't tell you how many times just those words, literally women just start sobbing on the phone. You don't realize you have been so gaslit, so gaslit. You're crazy. It's in your head. Or it's social. I had somebody say to me today that a doctor told her that, oh, you need to get off that social media. It's just a bunch of group of crazy women. Because, because we want to just get rid of our breast implants. So, yeah. So go ahead, Dr. Sood. You had a thought.
Yeah, so it's interesting, like you mentioned, the levels, the thyroid levels that your doctor had discovered, a naturopath, I'm guessing. Yeah. Potentially, it could have been any doctor, but and they were discovered after the fact, after you had implants. And this was not ever diagnosed as a pre-existing condition. But there's plenty of patients with genetic makeup, genetic history of having these autoimmune conditions. We have patients that have like scleroderma, rheumatoid arthritis, pre-existing thyroid issues. But what we do notice afterwards is that those pre-existing conditions get worse, and the people without those autoimmune conditions can potentially develop them. And they may not be a direct correlation as like, this is Hashimoto's that you developed. The Hashimoto's is also kind of diagnosed with exclusion, like I would say, like in parentheses, because there's nothing pointing directly to the Hashimoto's, but everything on paper with the testing looks like it's autoimmune.
Yeah.
So the doctor's like, autoimmune thyroid issues.
Or they don't even know. Yeah.
What is it? Should we just supplement with some, pig thyroid, or should we, get
or low dose thyroxine?
Yeah. So it's all over the place, but we'd love to kind of hear your story, how you figured that part out. But we see patients from all walks of life, and after surgery, I tell them, hey, go back to your doctor that had diagnosed you with these, these diagnoses, which may or may not have been true, and get your blood redrawn. Do it at 3 months. And how many times have we seen a complete reversal? The doctor's stumped.
They've never seen this before.
The doctor's asking, like, where did you go? Like, I want to research this. I want to join the group that you're in to learn more about this.
Either they do that or say or just like poo-poo it.
Or a random event. Like,
oh, wow.
We did have a patient that had a full-blown lupus diagnosis, not lupus-like symptoms, full-blown. 8 months later, went back to her doctor. The doctor said, I've never seen this before. Completely reversed.
No way.
And what did we do?
Implants.
Took her implants out.
So, okay, there's so many different ways I want to take this. And before I do that, so you basically now, Dr. Sood, have made your practice solely BII and explant focused.
Essentially. So I am the anti-plastic surgeon. I don't like the word anti, but kind of works with the title I just put together. So I am foreign body free. The only foreign bodies I do have to use are the dissolvable sutures to hold things together. But after getting involved with the explant space and meeting Laura and actually seeing the improvement in patients after removing them, I knew I was technically skilled, so I knew I could do the surgery. And I started doing the surgery after I met Laura because there was a need.
Yeah.
That need blew up over the time that I've been doing this over 4 years.
I mean, you have 5,000 people in your Facebook group.
Yeah.
It's insane.
We've done a lot of surgery. We're always exhausted because Laura's always on the phone. Laura's helping me get everything teed up. I'm the technical guy. I'm the plumber that goes in and puts the pipes together or whatever you want to call it. But
I'd call you an artist, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, so I am exclusively plastic free, silicone free. I do a couple other surgeries here and there. I'm still a plastic surgeon at heart. So, the artistic side of me is still there. So I do surgeries that involve like tummy tucks and facelifts and nose jobs, all of those normal plastic surgery procedures, but just no implants because I know the dangers that they can cause, the dangers to certain women. And my belief is not every woman that will be, they might have a tall glass where they can handle a toxic overload. They may think they're not sick. They may not actually show symptoms. But what we see in our practice is the women that have the short glass where the water's overflowing. They come to us. Social media has been, I used to despise it. And it's actually helped us not only reach women, but us to kind of have a support group, which allows women to kind of help each other. And
they're not
the last
alone.
thing we want to do, we want to educate.
Yeah.
We love to educate. We are so busy with the curing side of this that it's great to talk about it, because we only get to do it in short spurts with our patients that find us after kind of discovering this. And I hope this platform helps us to spread the awareness so people can start questioning this. Like, we have to question, why am I menopausal at 42 years old?
Why am I exhausted? Why am I so exhausted?
And irritable, and
Or can't have
just-
children.
Oh wow.
Hormones.
Yeah, infertility
We
is
didn't talk about
very,
that.
very common in the women with that short glass for
Really?
toxic overload.
Yeah. So I do believe exactly what Dr. Sood is saying. There's definitely toxic overload. I personally do believe it's not if I'm going to get sick, it's going to be when.
When?
These are going to break down sometime in their life. There are women that have them. We've got a patient we're explanting next week. She's had Dow cornea implants for 41 years,
Oh,
and they've been
wow.
ruptured for a very long time. She's been sick almost her whole life. So,
But then you've also had patients who probably just had them done.
Oh, 3 months,
3
6
months.
months, young girls.
These new, let's touch on that for a second.
Yeah.
These new generation implants, they're called Gummy there.
And that's the
there's-
ones I had.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does gummy bear mean? That means the silicone's cross-linked.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a thicker gel. They just made the gel
Yeah.
thicker. So if there was a break, it doesn't just spill into the bloodstream or go
But it
anywhere.
does. We see them, we open them up, and, they're supposed to be, you can cut them, you can run them over with a car.
But when you do a nice isolated table view and you
Yeah,
cut it,
and you cut
it
'em
looks like
open.
it doesn't spill on the table.
Yeah.
But in a body that's, 100 degrees
Right.
or forever, things are different.
Yeah. Or you have a capsule squeezing that implant.
Yeah.
Right. And then there is a fold on that implant, and it's like taking a bobby pin, bending it back and forth, back and forth.
Oh yeah.
And if there's a capsule contracture, it squeezes that implant and it causes a rupture, a silent rupture right there. So, but even you've taken out, I say we, I watch.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
weak. Yeah.
Yeah, I have taken out gummy bear implants where it's not that ooh goo. There's
Right.
just, it's a disintegration of the shell. They're just made like crap. And it's just like, he'll squeeze it and like, oh, yep, there's the rupture. I mean, it's
And sometimes
just,
all it takes is just a little bit to cause so
Oh,
much of a ruckus
yeah.
in your body.
And it's not like, I think Laura alluded to this before, it's not always the rupture that causes the symptoms.
Right.
So the symptoms are from the material and the pathogens itself.
Yeah.
The rupture is just kind of the alarming thing that most patients will act based on what they
yeah, oh,
find.
there's a rupture, I gotta get it taken out.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
some patients come to us like, oh, I got a MRI for something else and they saw my implant's ruptured. I got to get it out. I don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
So the reality is, like, it doesn't necessarily matter unless that rupture leaves the capsule. So the capsule, it's like a bag holding everything in. Once it leaves the capsule, yeah, we have some more problems. It's going to
Yeah,
travel
it's
to
lymph
your
nodes.
lymphatic system, and
Yeah.
the body's going to try to clean it up in all different aspects. Some people have siliconosis, where like silicone actually travels to all portions of the body, and it's
Oh,
not
wow.
just breast implants. There's silicone-free injections, which are illegal in the U.S. A lot of women or men, mostly women, would get these injected into their buttocks or even breasts or lips. Free silicone.
Free silicone.
Yes, so it's like it's in a syringe.
So it's not like a filler, like a Juvederm or something like
It's
that.
kind of in the form of a filler, where it's kind of like a thicker material, but it's literally injected into these areas of the body to create volume, but it's free flowing. So it will actually go into, it's a massive siliconosis.
Oh.
So that's another epidemic, which we have a couple patients that we have dealt with. Like,
You've taken them out.
it's not just breast implants, it's
Yeah.
Wow.
chin
Taken out their
implants,
lips.
lip implants.
Butt
Cap-
implants.
calf
And you're taking
implants.
these out. So I want to kind of stop for a second and just share a little bit, because I want to get into how you actually go and take this out and remove it. Because, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I chose your practice. Obviously, you're so humble, and the two of you make such a, like, literally a dream team. And then I was like, okay, I know I'm going to be cared for. I had such anxiety going into it, even thinking about it. And, I was having this on and off kind of relationship about, should I get them out? Should I not? Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's not. And then all the signs were pointing in that direction. And when I finally just kind of accepted everything, I was like, you know what? They've been with me for 13 years. And I'm like, they were great. It was amazing. It was a great run. And I'm actually complete. And, Braid Table fam, for those of you who have been following me for a while, you know that obviously I have such a long history with people passing of medical diseases. Like, my parents had cancers, and my mom actually died of breast cancer. And so this was very a personal thing for me to kind of go down that rabbit hole to say, all right, let me reclaim my health back. And this is probably like that one thing that's kind of still lingering out. And I had the conversation with my husband, and he's just like, are you just going through one of those like rabbit holes again? And I was like, he's like, but you're fine. And I'm like, I'm fine. He's like, you don't have any pain or anything like that. And I think this is kind of also a concern for women who are also married with partner, all of the things. It's a joint decision with you and your partner. And I was so, grateful that my partner was just like, do whatever is going to make you feel healed. And he's like, if you want us to go down the rabbit hole, we're going to go down it together. But I think I've heard so many other women don't really have that, and things kind of change post their relationship.
It's terrible. Yeah.
That's actually, that is spot on. Some women keep them because they're afraid what their husbands are going to think. Are they going to love me? Am I going to be attractive?
Yeah.
And that's where we can circle back around the artistic part of this.
Yes.
We care about what we look like. We got them for a reason. And that's the importance of going to a surgeon that has that artistic ability, as much as making sure these surgeries are going to be performed properly, which is something Dr. Sood will talk about. It's the artist part. And this is where Dr. Sood is so incredibly humble. There's no doubt in my mind that he was born to do this surgery. It is, you have a gift. You either have a gift to do this or you don't. Not only it is a very meticulous surgery that needs to be done, but you're going to reconstruct their breast to make them feel good about themselves again. So there's a lot of women that don't get them taken out because they're afraid of what they're going to look like. So that's, mind, body, soul. They have to be in the right headset. And Dr. Sood and I have talked about this many times. That is so, it's as important as the physical, as the mental. If they're mentally not ready, they need to work on themselves before they get to that point.
There is that like emotional and spiritual kind of healing that you have to do with yourself of the reasons why you actually, said yes to getting them in the first place. And to now, on the other side, I think for me, it was kind of like, you know what, I loved, the girl that was, newly divorced, and she was having her heyday, and she's like, she just wanted to get them done and have fun. That was me, 13 years ago, end of my 20s. I was going through my Saturn return, newly divorced. And that was great until I was like, okay, I think I'm complete with that chapter. And so I think for any woman that's watching this or thinking about this, or maybe it's been a seed's been planted. I've had so many friends throughout the years that was like, Neeta, you might want to, I don't know, are you ready to get those out yet? Or, they would just like plant these seeds. I wasn't ready. I really wasn't. Until I actually was. Yeah. And then, of course, you guys were like my angels. But I kid you not. And my husband was like, you are looking at these Facebook pictures every single day. Because I was like, before, after. Because I am a small, petite woman. And I was like, okay,
what am I going to look like?
Yeah, what am I going to look like? You don't really see the pictures. And we talk about this with some of my girlfriends who are, small. And I didn't even go big to begin with. I think I had 234 cc's, which is, I don't even know what that would translate to. But it was not, it was, I felt like it was just like small, normal. And so, and I even asked you, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm okay. I'm going to be okay with my itty bitty committee. And so, and Laura was just like, no, he's fantastic. He's an artist. And literally I would go back to every single like patient, I don't know, from years that you guys were together. And I'm like, oh, okay. I see that. Okay. So, and I think that is a big, just relief for a lot of women, but also explain to us what En Bloc is, because just like you, Laura, I was interviewing about 6 surgeons. I think I interviewed 8 total. Some in Dubai, some in Illinois, some in Texas. And of course I went with you for a lot of reasons, but there were many of those surgeons that said, no, we'll just take it. It'll be local.
Kind of like, yeah,
it's fine. Like it's nothing's hurting, right? Nothing feels hard, right? I'm like, nope. Yeah, you're fine. You don't need to. Yeah, sometimes the capsule can just be left in there. And I was like, oh.
Or the body dissolves it. We know that.
Or the body dissolves it.
We have proof. Yeah.
We have proof of that. The body does not dissolve. The scar capsules do not dissolve within the body.
Let's talk about that, because I was like, for a while, I'm like, this sounds great. I don't have to go fully under, because I was anxious about fully going under. And so
yeah, the term En Bloc, which you had mentioned, so it's actually used as a term for cancer. So when a cancer is removed from the body, the oncologists will refer to it as, I have to remove this thing, En Bloc, the diseased tissue, along with the entire cancer. So it's actually a term that, the Plastic Surgery Society does not encourage that we use in explaining to patients what we're doing, because it's correlated with a cancer surgery. So another way of kind of saying the word En Bloc is it's a capsulectomy, it's total, but it's also intact.
Right.
So the key word is intact here. So capsulectomy means you remove the capsule, whether it's in one piece, 100 pieces, you just kind of rip it out. I don't do any ripping, I do it delicately, but so that would be that's a capsulectomy. If you just remove a couple pieces, maybe you remove partial capsulectomy. Total means the whole thing comes out.
The whole thing.
But it might not be intact. So it might not be in the egg. It might not be the eggshell. So the word En Bloc kind of correlates with the total intact capsulectomy, where we remove it as the eggshell is around the yolk and the contents.
But I also want to kind of touch to your point of being such a skilled, precision-focused surgeon, that there are these surgeons who opt for, local, because it's probably, it depends on their skill set as a surgeon to remove it. And it's not a surgery for, everyone.
Yeah, in my opinion, the actual, removal of the En Bloc or intact capsule should never be attempted under local. This implant and capsule, and the majority of women in the world, are sitting under the muscle, which means it's directly on the ribs and the thin layer of muscles that's right above the lung cavity. Any movement, any slip of hand, any bleeding that's not controlled can really increase the chances of an injury to those visceral organs, the lungs particularly in this case.
Yeah.
The heart's very close to. So very dangerous to do under local if anyone attempted the full removal of the capsule. The reason it's difficult is that layer where it's sitting. In my eyes, and what we've kind of done over the years, is we want to remove this intact, and it's kind of like we don't want the bag to have a hole in it and spill contents to give the body another reason to react.
Right.
So we don't want a big spillage of contents. And honestly, some of the time we don't know if the implant's broken.
Right.
So if we were not to go in and attempt to remove it whole, and let's say we want to remove in pieces, and I remove a piece, the outer part, the easy part, I would say, and then it's broken, that silicone, there's no control. It's going to start oozing all throughout the body.
Right.
Well, most surgeons would try to wipe it out, wipe it with a little bit of saline, and say, okay, we got the implant out, we got the contents, you're good. But the reality is there's particles all over the body now, and the vasculature of the body is amazing. So things will spread into all different areas of the body.
So you don't want that, basically.
We don't want to see silicone during the surgery at all.
Well, and so getting to this point then, so basically if anybody is saying, I'll just remove it under local, you might want to question why they're saying that.
Yeah, it's those points that I mentioned about the spillage, but also it's the fact that the capsule is it's
so toxic.
It's toxic because it's been the sponge that's been around the implant, and the capsules are very vascular. So this is like, some people might not know this, but the body will form a tiny blood supply around the capsule. So it's kind of like an alive piece of tissue that we call scar tissue, but it's got little vessels all over it. It's vascular. Yeah. So things will, anything that, the leak or the silent rupture, all these things that hit the capsule, it's already going into the body at a slow pace. If we accelerate that pace by having an opening, which happens, sometimes patients go get a mammogram routinely, and then they get sick all of a sudden. Within 3 weeks of their mammogram, they're like, I feel so sick. I go to multiple doctors. Maybe inflammatory markers are up. Maybe their primary doctor will put them on some steroids just to, downregulate their system a little bit. But still, they have this huge load that's now
Toxic
open
load.
Oh, wow.
to the body.
Important to mention when you mention the mammogram, it's very important to mention we are seeing mammograms are rupturing breast implants. It's like something nobody talks about.
Yeah.
Mammograms are rupturing breast implants.
Well, in Switzerland, I think they banned mammograms
they ban
now.
mammograms.
We only do them in the U.S. there's only one real reason. It's insurance companies want that study that's cheaper to kind of screen people before they go on with a diagnostic ultrasound or MRI, which are much more costly and labor intensive. And the insurance companies obviously do not want to pay these sums of money to get these tests done, but ideally people get these, more rigorous tests done, rigorous as in more complete, rather than getting these painful and traumatic mammograms, which are just x-rays after smashing your tissue.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer if you think about it.
Well, I mean, and which is one of the reasons why I just never got a mammogram, even though, my mom had breast cancer. I would only
Thermogram,
get
MRI.
Well, yeah, the thermogram or the sonogram,
Sonogram.
MRI. We have a place, Sonobreast in LA, that I've been seeing her for a very long time, the last 7 years. And I still go back there to see her.
Thermogram is very interesting, though. It's something that, like, I hope
Red
gets
hot
adopted
spots.
by like the Radiological Society, because it shows us the hot spots and it shows us, hey, let's go investigate. But the problem is it's not accepted.
Right. You have to pay out of pocket.
In conventional medicine.
You have to pay out of pocket. And I think, well, even if you find those spots in a mammogram, you have to actually get a sonogram anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wanted to also bring this up because, now getting into the surgery and your artistic work and the fact that you do something very different than a lot of other surgeons, where there is the lift, but then there's also the mini lift, and then there's also the fat transfer and the removal all at the same time.
Yeah. So the first target of, yes, the artistry portion or the aesthetic portion, it's always there. I'm always thinking about it when I'm marking the patient, looking at photos, kind of planning things. But the main focus of when we get into surgery is let's get in there and remove this properly.
Right.
So once we get step 1 done, that's when my brain will shift over into, okay, now let's reconstruct this.
Got it.
And the reconstruction is not just the tightening of the skin or, and I'll get into that, but it's really like there's a lot of functional issues that happen with implants too. That muscle, the pectoralis major, is lifted, sitting on an implant, so it's floating, missing one of its biggest attachments on the rib, on the 4th or 5th rib there. So by missing that attachment, it's not functional to a degree that's meaningful. So it's literally kind of there just flapping in the wind. So that muscle needs to be repaired, in my eyes, 100% of the time.
Oh, wow.
It's like leaving a man down. Like you're there, we're doing the surgery, we get the implant out, the muscle's sitting on top, and it wants to go home. And the home is, on the rib where it was connected to. Without that rib, without that connection, it's like taking, what was that example I used the other day? It's like using those exercise bands, but not holding one end of it and just kind of flapping it around.
Yeah.
You need that opposition for that muscle to work. So the muscle repair is very important. So I do it on 100% of people that the implant is under the muscle. So that's very important functional component that that needs to be done. So that's my view on that. But the aesthetic part, so the whole idea is to preserve every morsel of tissue. And the types of tissue we can preserve are fat, glandular tissue, which is the breast tissue. We can also preserve a little bit of the deep dermis, which is the layer below the epidermis of the skin. So my goal is to, when I'm doing this lift and adjusting the nipple areolar height or position or size, and removing skin that's been stretched for 10 years, that some people have really great elasticity and they might bounce back more than others, but generally don't count on it for majority of cases.
Which usually they needed a lift to begin with anyway,
Right.
where they had their implants.
Right.
So then the whole idea is, okay, how much skin are we going to remove? How am I going to gather this tissue to create a smaller but perky and nice breast out of it? And I have some trade secrets, which I'm not going to go into because my competitors out there.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
But,
not having you share it.
Yeah. The whole idea is keeping every bit of tissue, organizing that tissue over the muscle repair,
Right.
and then kind of creating that skin envelope. It's kind of like the skin is like literally the envelope you put over everything else you do inside. That, I have a couple types of different lifts. There's ones that involve more scars, some involve less.
Yeah.
What we call mini lift is majority of the work's done inside. So it's autologous, using your own tissues to create a little bit of a better breast than you may have had by pulling tissue from different directions, different anatomic places of the body.
Well, and that's what we did. And I was like, whoa. I was literally expecting to be like a surfboard,
Yeah.
And because that's just I'm super petite and I've always been that way. And I'm like, and some of my friends were like, well, Neeta, you've had 2 kids, like, and I was telling you guys, even at our what was it, 6-week checkup, I'm like, I am just shocked. I am so shocked. I did not expect to have that much tissue.
There's women that have like some expectations are high, some are low, but in general, implants were put in for vanity. They're put in for reasons that were solely for some sort of aesthetic benefit or, feeling great in your clothes and whatnot.
Course.
So how can you go through life for however many years with with feeling, that portion of it, and then go into, hey, I'm going to be mutilated and look like crap, but I got to get these out. So I'm just going to go get them out. So for me, the aesthetic component's very heavy, 50-50, as far as I'm concerned. It might not be like that for other experts in the field. There's a handful of other surgeons that do these explant surgeries and do them well from what we know. We only know what we hear. But my focus is really the aesthetics beyond the proper removal. And the proper removal to what, in my normal day, it's like kind of like I got to keep my eyes open, but it's kind of what we just do. It's what we do every day.
Well, and you have so many befores and afters of so many. And I feel like it gives women an encyclopedia of like, oh, okay, this is what I can happen, right? And with the different body shapes and the body sizes, because I think for me, such a visual person, I was like, oh, and yeah, I became obsessed in a couple of weeks before I was like, coming to you guys. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Find someone that looks like me and let's.
Right, like where can I see it? And I'm like, oh, did she have, okay, this is how I'm going to heal.
Yeah.
And so, well, I want to get into, the post-op. Obviously, the day of surgery and everything, there's a whole, working up to the days of I felt like your practice took care of, my mental health and everything, but even into the surgery. I remember kind of saying, a prayer and even writing a letter. And so this was like part of my own healing journey of like writing a letter to my girls, and I think for anybody who's watching this, ladies, it's really that loving that younger part of yourself and the reasons why you did it in the first place.
Your girls meaning your implants?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just one.
Maybe
it's your daughter, but yeah.
Well, we're two, but mostly my girls, my implants. And I think that, there is this sense of self-love. And so if anybody who is struggling with that or like really worrying about that, I think that's the biggest, because you can keep going down rabbit holes even afterwards. And, how
the
often
expectations are sometimes wild. I mean, some people
and
don't want to categorize any specific woman out there, but some women expect to look like the same almost after removal, or the same but just a little smaller. And we can make that the case in majority of the patients we see based on
the tools that you are
techniques
given.
and the tools. And fat transfer is an interesting one, which I utilize in very specific cases for the right patient that needs that extra, not necessarily size, but shape that we create out of it, which is a whole nother topic that we can talk about. But that's one of the techniques I do employ. And there's all types of banter out there about not being safe. It's too much surgery. The reality is we're getting our surgeries done in between 2 and 4 hours in a full reconstruction, and everything is done.
Yeah. It's very surgeon specific.
And ours,
Very
and that's exactly what you made me
surgeon-specific.
feel so, clear on, that you do so many of these surgeries in a day. Like you've done thousands of them at this point.
Yeah, we did 3 this morning.
Oh my gosh! And I'm just so grateful that you guys are here. And so, so in the post-op, because our surgery took like
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the norm.
2.5 to 3 is the norm for a majority of cases. I tell everybody the actual removal part, 1 hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours for removing 2 implants with the capsules. So majority of the time is actually spent there. But in the process of getting to that, I artistically unpeel the orange, before we go and remove everything. That when I put it back together, it doesn't take me as much time. It's like another hour, hour and 15, hour and 30 to kind of put it back the way I have designed it. And as you know, during your visit for surgery, like I spent maybe about 10 minutes drawing on you with my Sharpie, which is my go-to marker. And I always apologize to everybody, but that's just what I like to use. But with measurements, with using my eyes, and
there's so much precision.
He uses his eyes.
Most of the work is the groundwork's laid, like the instruction plans are there right before we even go back to surgery.
And so, on the other side of surgery, in the healing, and, I think we talked a lot about the post-op and what tends to happen afterwards. And, for anyone kind of navigating this, what would you recommend? Because there's so much out there. And I was reading on my own all of these different, things that I can do to detox. And obviously we talked about, you were like, well, you were going into the sauna beforehand with those implants, but they were just leaching.
Yes, no sauna. If you have breast implants, no sauna.
Yes, so no
Not while
sauna
you
with
have
breast
them.
implants. And that's a firm belief on our end here. You're heating up an object that already we're trying to minimize the leaching of these toxins and pathogens.
Yeah.
So heat is no good when you have a foreign body that has this potential to leak.
It's great once you recover, about 6 weeks. I don't want to miss this point, and then we'll circle back. I don't want to get off track, but talking about the capsules, it is now known, this is a very important point, it is now known that all scar capsules have the potential of causing cancer. So when we're talking about no capsules, should we leave capsules in, should we not? Are they going to dissolve or they're not? Let's completely take that off the table. And it's now known in 2023 that all scar capsules have the potential of causing cancer.
Well,
no matter what type of implant you have.
And that's shocking, but also, isn't there another kind of like cancer that's associated with the breast implants?
Yeah, there was a specific cancer which was noted in a slightly significant population. It was generally with the textured silicone implants that were quickly taken off the market once they figured this out. As it happens, once a lot of bad things happen, the companies kind of...
Well, it'll help some friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these implants essentially are textured implants, almost like a sandpaper covering around the silicone shell. The idea behind it was maybe the sandpaper shell will allow the implant to stay in place and not move around, which is one positive, and also to decrease the rate of capsular contracture. So that was a whole thought process of how do we create this special design shell? But unfortunately, there was a less than 1%, less than 0.01% chance of having a specific cancer called BII.
BIALCL, yeah.
So anaplastic large cell lymphoma, breast implant associated.
Lymphoma.
So this lymphoma was found out. There's also cases of squamous cell carcinoma, which is really bad when it's internal, which is another type of cancer, even more rare in this case. But that implant was taken off the market. But nonetheless, there's still been some correlation with standard implants, like gel implants, that with these cancers.
I always say when we say rare, but is it really rare? We're not testing for it.
We're not testing for it.
So, I always say science is never settled. So, so I would say no, capsules have to be removed. That's
the point you wanted to bring.
That's
up.
exactly. They have to be removed. I mean, why leave something in your body that is just not good for you?
Neeta, the recovery process. What were you getting to? With
well, yeah. So with the recovery process, what is it? Because I think that a lot of people have these fears, and so can you dispel some of the fears, like so much pain and immobile. I remember, for me, essentially, I was really surprised that I didn't really have any pain. I didn't have to take any of those, narcotics that you guys gave me. I think I took maybe like, muscle relaxant here and there, and kind of, I opted for the tramadol. I didn't want any of the like higher dose things, but I think that's the biggest fear, right? And the fact for me was like, oh, I can't hug my kids, but my kids are rambunctious and they're 4 and 6 and they're just,
want to jump on you.
Yeah. And they're kind of like pushing in all different ways. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I literally had that, mastectomy pillow as my armor when like anybody was coming for me. But can we dispel some of those really quickly?
Pain, just like any surgical procedure, there's going to be surgical site pain. There's going to be some rather discomfort from the muscle that I do repair. And that's why muscle relaxer was in your regimen of medications that you have available. Because there's some spasms that happen as the muscles put back into place and it starts to slowly work while you move your arm. So the pain is there, but generally well controlled with just a few usually 2 days of medication for most patients. A lot of it is, it's all over the place. Some people have a high tolerance, some have low. We do a nerve block on everybody, and then there's a longer acting nerve block, which is a special medication we can also use in certain patients. But the pain is there. It's like any surgical pain, but it's not as painful as the initial surgery for most patients.
Right.
Because the initial surgery involves that muscle really getting a stretch on it. And that's where the pain comes from when the implants are put in. That muscle's literally like there's a balloon that was put under the muscle. It stretches, all the pain receptors are just going crazy with all that pressure. So that's the pain that a lot of people remember, that like, I don't want to go through that again.
Right.
Slightly different. We're relieving that pressure. We're kind of doing a couple adjustment. You're going to feel more soft tissue discomfort, just like from any scar that you might have. But most people, 2 to 3 days of pain medicine. And the mobility is very important. I think the mastectomy pillow, we actually recommend to every patient.
Oh, it's amazing.
Whether you're in a car, if you're not driving.
Oh, you need it.
You need it.
Yeah.
You need it.
At home, sit in a recliner. Absolutely.
You need it. Well, and I think for so many of the patients that fly in for you, because you're okay with sending them back, very quickly. Like we had our post-op, was it visit call? But I was 4 days post-op and I took a flight to Austin.
So we gauge the ability to fly in and out or drive long distances after surgery based on multiple factors. There's a Caprini score index, which we're kind of looking at essentially a lot of factors that would lead you to clotting disorders or the ability to clot earlier than others. Usually it starts from the leg in most patients postoperatively. So we're kind of using this assessment based on our initial visits to figure out where are you at on this chart. Some patients we, recommend you got to, almost just about everybody we wear compression socks for 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's already kind of taken care of the majority of our patients, but some people stay longer than you did based on their score index of the ability to clot.
Okay. Got it.
Or excessively clot, I should say. Some people we even give blood thinners to after surgery based on their, history.
So if somebody is preparing to have surgery by you, your office, how do, if they're flying in, what is the amount of time that they should be taking off of work?
Good question. Majority of patients with implant capsulectomy intact, so the En Bloc with a lift of any sort, generally 3 total days in town if they're healthy and young and don't have risk factors. The women that undergo, adjuvant procedures or additional procedures, including, for example, liposuction and, potentially abdominal procedures, a lot of people want to do the same thing or things at the same time.
Yeah.
We increase that time frame.
Okay.
Yeah. So it all depends on what we're doing that day that we give that info.
Yeah.
Is there any final thoughts?
I do have a final thought.
Okay.
Something that I did leave out. I think 2 things. One, anybody watching, if they're trying to get some more research on this, there is an incredible documentary called Explant.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Yes, it's Explant on Paramount Plus. It gives you the history of how are we, after all these decades, talking about breast implants.
So
it's wonderful. I want to make sure that I mention something that is really, really powerful. So my neurologist, Dr. Bernard Patton, was doing a study. Somebody broke into his office, put duct tape and crutches on his desk, and they destroyed his career. If that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what does. So when we have these brave, courageous surgeons that are stepping up and who literally have a target on their back, and I've told you 1,000 times how much we appreciate everything that you do, because you don't have to be doing this. We are not an easy community, and I mean that lovingly. We've been gaslit. We trust nobody. We're scared. The comfort that you bring these women, I don't think you realize what you do every day. And I know you get uncomfortable when people say things like that to you. However, you literally are saving women. You're saving their lives. And I always say, when you get into plastic surgery, did you ever think that he hears it every day. Women say, you literally saved my life. Yeah.
But I feel like an outcast. So when I'm
he does feel like an outcast.
These meetings or with other plastic surgery friends,
okay.
It's like I'm the guy that does the opposite.
Right.
But I have a moral compass, and my moral compass led me to where I am today.
Yeah.
And then it fine-tuned and readjusted once I figured this out.
Yeah.
And once I knew it, I could not know it. There was no part of me that's like, I'll just go put an implant here, take one out here. I just can't do that. It doesn't work for me. Doesn't work. I'm not a salesman. I just want to do good work. And with Laura, who helps me spread the message and get patients to be treated properly, that's been our goal for 4 years. And we're busy, and
it's organic.
Yeah, it's organic, and we love it that way.
When you take an oath to first do no harm and you live up to it, I'm literally blessed to stand with him and help as many women as we can.
I mean, you both are doing such incredible work, and I'm just so honored that you literally took the time out of your busy day to.
You traveled from out of state to meet with us.
Well, we said that we were going to make this happen.
You are too kind. You're the one that traveled all the way to Chicago with us. And
we'll make time.
Yeah, so we really appreciate
Well,
that.
And I think this episode is going to really spark so much dialogue.
There's still
and
so
many
much
conversations.
more.
And we just kind of scratched the surface. So if anybody is looking for more information or wanting to connect with, you, Laura, or Dr. Sood, I think the Facebook group.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they can go directly to me.
Yeah.
If I can. My phone number is 815-977-5781.
She's got the hotline. She's the hotline. We're going to We'll put it in the show notes. Are you sure?
It's totally fine.
And
Like
we'll
I
also
said.
put the Facebook group.
Yes,
on
which
there.
is the BII Centers of Excellence support group. It is on Facebook. It's a private group. You definitely can get a hold of me. I will guide them. I also have an Instagram, which is BII Pioneer. I share a lot of information there, which is really helpful for women too. So we'll definitely, get them connected and take the time and answer as many
And we are
questions.
working on some more informational sites and things, but I'm not really good at that stuff. I might have to ask your team for some help at some point. But
Of course.
there's a
We're here to
lot we need to
support.
put out there, including
Women need to know.
women need to know about what signs and symptoms are. They need to know what they might look like afterwards. So the picture
Before and afters.
Yeah.
before and afters are very
big one.
important for anything that involves
Of
surgery
course.
and cosmetics.
Yeah.
So that's something we're working on to we have thousands and thousands of them at this point, but
And because you're so
Putting a gallery together.
unique and skilled at this, and I can say this 1000%. So, it's just been an honor to sit with you guys. We ask everyone these questions, and you can answer it as short as you want, as long as you want. But what does it mean to be brave?
brave to me means doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Faith over fear.
Yeah.
Just, fear's a liar.
Mm.
And when you're scared, when you're scared, that means you're doing something great. Without fear and being scared, that was good. I can't even top that one. That was really good.
You're crying.
Yeah, I am. Laura cries.
Laura cries a lot.
Wow. I want to thank you. This is really, I don't think we realize the women that this is going to reach and the lifelines that are being thrown. I can feel it. I can just feel it.
Even if it gets them to just look it up, Google it. It's a real
Research
thing. It's just slightly buried because of industry, but
Of course.
we're here,
Yeah, and you guys are doing some incredible work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. I don't know if you're crying, but we just had a really powerful conversation. If this was so impactful for you, if you turned a corner, if you changed perspective, if you learned a nugget or two that you're like, oh, wow, I had zero idea about. And maybe you have a friend, a bestie, somebody who's thinking about getting implants or, and there's no shade. I have girlfriends all the time asking me, and I'm like, if it supports you, great. I just know the other side. And so when you're ready to have that brave conversation, I'm here. And now we can pass this info to them. So I think, we have to meet people where they're at. And I think being their biggest advocate, and as Laura was saying, your biggest angel, sometimes we just have to wait for that call. And I feel like conversation starters like this, where we can be open, we can have dialogue and, listening to the facts, but maybe even doing some of that inner work to say, okay, what is it about me that doesn't feel enough or needs more or doesn't feel complete? And so with that, to everybody that's watching or listening, if you've ever wondered about your own health, or maybe this is a reclamation to look into what's going on beneath some of the symptoms that you have, and maybe there's something else to, brave your health in this season and stage. And I mean, Dr. Sood and Laura, we've put their information in, the show notes so that you can actually do some deeper research. And I promise you are going to be blown away if you haven't been already blown away by this conversation. You can follow Laura and Dr. Sood on Instagram. We've linked their handles in the show notes, as well as their BII community and their website, so you can learn more. And if you love this episode, share it with a friend, family member. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? If this changed your mind in any way or had any sort of impact, please comment, subscribe, like this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. You know I've got so much more in store for you. So if you are really ready to dive in and keep owning your emotions like the boss that you are, click right here. Go ahead, don't be shy. I'll see you in the next one. Keep shining.